recall recently when I was asked to wear the most amazing dress in a production of Julius Caesar. I was to sing Vadoro Pupille, suspended from the ceiling with an 8-meter long dress that covered the entire stage. And I could tell you at that moment, I thought, wow, I think I've made it now. Singing found me, I didn't find it. I would agree with that, for sure, as did being on stage. It was something that just came about. I can't even imagine ever really wanting to do anything else. Well, my mother is French-Canadian and of Acadian heritage. My father is British. He was born in England, but then grew up in Belfast in Northern Ireland. And for myself, I really identify with being Canadian because I grew up there. But having spent a good 10 years of my professional life here in London in the UK, I feel I've really had a good sense of best of British and what it's like to be here as well. I think I've been really fortunate in that in my family, music has always been a really huge part of growing up for me. My father himself was a boy soprano in his day, and he worked with Benjamin Britten and Imogen Holst. And on my mother's side of the family, there are also quite a lot of artists and musicians. Her cousin is a French folk singer called Edith Butler, for example. And my cousin, pianist Carl-Philippe Gionnet, and I, we do a lot of collaborations as well. We know where we come from. We've got the same family. We love oysters and we love French food. And, you know, our priorities are in the right area. In terms of my formal training, I started that at the University of Toronto, and after that, I really felt I wanted to broaden my horizons a bit, so I did go to the States. And there I met a really amazing soprano called Patricia Wise, and I spent a year with her in Bloomington, Indiana, at the Jacobs School of Music. And from her, I really learned about putting the soprano voice into the body. And I think that's a really, really important thing, especially when you're singing repertoire that's quite high and sparkly and fluid. So that was the initial delving into, I would say, quite a solid soprano technique. After being in the States, I really wanted to see what it was about in Europe. So I auditioned for the Guildhall School of Music and Drama, and that was a big dream of mine. So I was really thrilled when I was given a spot there. And I went to do a master's there. And again, I was really fortunate to work with a soprano called Susan McCulloch. She really brought a joy to her singing and to her teaching and to her presence, which I think is so important when you're training singers. And from that, I had a joyful experience learning from her and then bringing that positivity to the stage and to the technique as well, which I think is hugely important. When I graduated from the Guildhall, I was quickly cast in the Royal Opera House Covent Garden production of Into the Woods, and I was to sing Rapunzel. And for me, I had never sang in a big opera house before, so it just felt like a real gift to be there. I got to do my international debut in Hong Kong to sing La Fille du Régiment by Donizetti. And this was a role I always wanted to perform. So when I was catapulted into a foreign city and a foreign culture to sing such a big role, I can admit I was quite nervous about it. But once I arrived, I actually just felt this huge thrill at being in such a new place. And having that experience actually gave me a huge amount of confidence. The only way that a character can have freedom is that if the music and the voice is absolutely free and in complete control. The starting point for me when I'm approaching a role or aria or anything is always the text. I actually like to memorize text first, completely. Then I go and memorize the music and the text without singing it, actually. Once I start to put the actual music into the body, there's the least amount of tension. At that point, the freedom can happen. And I don't mean just the musical expression, but the sound, freedom of sound as well, which is so important for any classically trained singer. I really feel that my voice and my physicality suits Handel heroines, for example. So roles like Cleopatra, Rodelinda, Deidamia, I love that music, and it just feels like home to sing these amazing characters. I also find great joy in singing Donizetti and Rossini comedic roles as well. Fun characters like Fille de Régiment, Adina, and Fiorilla. But for the future, I have quite a lot of ambitions to explore other repertoire. And there are a lot of modern composers, I feel, who are making a huge mark in main stage opera houses, and I'd love to be a part of that. People, for example, like Jonathan Dove, Nico Muhly, John Adams, Philip Glass. In the operatic world, I feel we always have to be going forward as well as backward. So I would love to get my teeth on some interesting roles in that area. In terms of a dream role, I think for me it's absolutely French repertoire. I would love to sing Manon by Massenet, or a really intriguing character like Blanche from Dialogues of the Carmelites by Poulenc. That would be a real dream come true. There's a real affinity and the unity that comes from just two people performing on stage, I think is very special. And I feel very fortunate that I have great partners that I can collaborate and work with and explore song repertoire and poetry with. In terms of what I've accomplished so far, I feel really grateful for all the opportunities that I've had, and just feel I've met so many great people, and I'll always hold those things quite close, if that makes sense. They're like little treasures almost. I really feel we have to enjoy what we're doing, because the enjoyment in the music is the most important thing. The rest of it is just nonsense.